It's time for a generation to rise up with a more than conquerors mindset. If we want to see a revival, that's where it's going to start. When people realize there's something different about those people. There's something different about those people. You've got a world, every voice of society and culture and normalcy is saying conform, 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 fit in, be like everybody else. Let your family be like this family. Just go along to get along. Don't let anybody notice, because we know there's nothing worse than being noticed. It makes my anxiety flare up when people notice me. You know, I'm quite certain that the cross would have been fairly anxiety-inducing. And he went to it anyway. Why? Because there was a battle that had to be won. And at some point, if we're going to take the gospel to this generation, it's going to take a group of people rising up and saying, you know what? It's not me. I can't do this on my own. I am weak. I am flawed. I am broken. And I have failed. But through the power of my faith in Jesus Christ, I am more than a conqueror through the one who laid down his life for me. It's time for a generation to rise up with a more than conquerors mindset. If we want to see a revival, that's where it's going to start. When people realize there's something different about those people. There's something different about those people. If I were the devil and I wanted to derail a generation, if I knew I couldn't really steal your faith, and I knew I couldn't steal your joy, and I knew I couldn't stop your worship, I would just try to convince you to lay down your strength and accept that weakness is normal. That anxiety is just a fact of life, and that you will always struggle with this. I would try to convince you, if I was a good devil, that all of the difficulties of your life are something to be coped with rather than cast out. And then if I were a good devil, I would make sure that there were plenty of platforms and opportunities to enable your dysfunction. The National Institute of Health's International Journal of Endocrinology published a study a while back about blue light wavelengths. The blue light emitted by LED screens that you spend your day staring into. At your job, on your computer, on your phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, on your wrist, on your smartwatch, at your home computer, your work computer. Everywhere we look, just staring into blue light. The light itself. We're not even getting into the content that you consume. We'll hit that in a minute. The light itself. Your eyes are not meant to view the world in that haze of blue light. The light itself depresses melatonin production in your brain. And it increases the production of cortisol, the stress hormone. Well, I'm stressed out and I'm not sleeping. I'm just stressed out. I just can't sleep anymore. I don't know what's wrong. How many hours a day are you staring into a little LED lit up piece of glass? How many hours of your day? And this is not spiritual. It's in a science journal. I'll share the link with you if you want it. It's the most dull, boring thing you'll ever read in your life. But a bunch of scientists realize we've got a problem on our hands because we're having this epidemic of anxiety and sleeplessness and stress. And while everybody's physically interacting with something that triggers that in your brain, and that's before we get to the content that we allow into our minds and hearts that form our worldviews all day, every day. I'm just stressed. I'm not sleeping at all. The devil's not after you. You're doing it to yourself. The devil can go on vacation. Our own behaviors are sabotaging our lifestyles and creating weakness in us. They tell us it's not good for us. Okay, I'll grant you that. I'm going to try to limit The hours I spend looking into a blue light. All right, we're going to try to do that. Well, let's dive deeper. Let's dive deeper into the content and what the content does that you look at. The content of social media suppresses oxytocin and endorphins. Guess what that does? Makes you feel anxious. Now, it does boost one thing, and that's dopamine. That's the thing that just gives you a little jolt of happy when you see something. You're scrolling through Instagram. That's cool. What happens? A little hit of dopamine. But the problem with that hit of dopamine is after it hits, it plummets. And so what do you have to do? You have to do it some more. You scroll more. You spend more time looking into the thing that's robbing you of peace and sleep. I got to get more. And we're literally addicted to chemicals that our own brain is producing. And our behaviors are pulling us further and further and further into the whirlwind that is making us compare ourselves to each other. It's birthing anxiety in people who used to have peace. How many hours a day are you staring into a device? And listen, I'm not gonna smash a TV or jump on my phone, although I'd love to. If you're able to like it, you can have it. I'm just giving you one example of we all stand around and go, I don't know why I'm as stressed out as I am. Well, what are you doing with your days? What are you doing with your habits and your thought life and your behaviors? I would venture to say that for most of us, we could pinpoint the source of most of our anxieties and frustrations and sleeplessness to the behaviors that we've allowed in ourselves. Why? We have been conformed to the behavior of the world. And if you want to break free of that, you've got to be renewed in your mind and break free of the mindset that says, hey, you need to compare yourself to that person. You're probably not as good. You're probably not as talented. You're probably not... You've got to set yourself free from that and say, you know what? I'm going to put on strength. I'm going to lay aside my addictive behaviors to the best that I can with the help of Jesus Christ. And I am going to change. I am going to change. It's got to start there. It's got to start there. It's got to start there. And I know I'm walking a fine line today because I realize, and you realize, there's no relationship without vulnerability. You know what? I can't have a real relationship with you if I'm not honest about the fact that, you know what? I've got some failures, I've got some flaws, I've got some areas where I'm weak. I'm not saying to pull off the greatest cover-up in human history. Everybody knows that you're probably pretty messed up if we had to guess. They know. We've been around. We know. We get it. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We get that. There is no relationship without vulnerability. And so we have to embrace that to walk through life together. But there's also no leadership without strength. There's no relationship without vulnerability, but there's no leadership without strength. And you go through what the Bible says about if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be an elder, if you're going to be part of the church, if you're going to lead other people, then you have got to clothe yourself in a strength that prepares you to minister to others even when you yourself may feel down. What I'm talking about today is not hiding from the truth and pretending that we don't have struggles. No, what I'm saying is I'm not defined by my struggles. I'm not defined by my past. That's not all there is about me. Greater is He that is in me than any of the other stuff that's tried to latch a hold of me. He's greater. He's greater. There's no relationship without vulnerability. There's no leadership without strength. For though we walk in the flesh, we don't war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. What? Casting down imaginations. The first fight you need to get in your spirit is casting down your imagination. All of that self-talk that you get going. The way you think about yourself. What you imagine somebody else said about you or thought about you. The imaginary conversations that you have in your head. Oh, you told them, didn't you? They're never going to even know you're upset. Just imagining it. I told them off in my mind. Do you feel better? No, you don't feel any better. You're just more stressed out than you've ever been. We have got to go to war with our imaginations. We have got to get free in the battle that is in our mind. Somebody has got to make up their mind, I want to get better. I want to get better. And I can get better. And I'm going to get better. Casting down imaginations.